Behind every successful man is a woman, and behind every failed man is also a woman. In modern society, men are bound by sweet fairy tales, stories claiming that if you're kind enough, patient enough, and always accommodating, you'll eventually be rewarded with genuine love and everlasting loyalty. But harsh reality, as Machiavelli once warned, shows clearly without power, there is no true love. What men receive from relationships with imbalanced power dynamics is often nothing more than exploitation disguised cleverly as romance. It's not kindness that destroys a man, it's the illusions he creates when he gives that kindness to the wrong person. Today's women don't harm men with knives or guns. Instead, they use subtler weapons, a cold glance, calculated silence, or indifferent attitudes that men mistakenly interpret as mysterious or attractive. The most tragic part is that men often don't realize they're hurting. They fool themselves into believing they're in love and being loved. They endure pain, accepting it as a natural part of love, unaware that this blind tolerance is precisely what's draining their spirits. A man who allows himself to tolerate disrespectful behavior is signing away his self-worth and dignity. Men don't fail because they're incompetent or weak. They fail because they refuse to face the truth. Certain behaviors from the woman they love should never be accepted if they wish to preserve their self-respect and integrity. This isn't typical dating advice. It's a profound wake-up call for anyone accustomed to living in pain, yet mistakenly believing it to be love. Where the fall begins. A man's downfall doesn't start with a dramatic betrayal or a major deception. Instead, it quietly begins the moment he forces a smile after a hurtful remark, stays silent after a dismissive glance, or tells himself, "She's just stressed. Things will be fine." In that very instant, without realizing it, he lays the foundation for his own decline and eventual collapse. Every time he tolerates toxic behavior out of fear of losing the woman he loves, he's not protecting his relationship. Instead, he's slowly destroying himself, sacrificing his self-respect, piece by piece. The saddest truth is that no one will appear to rescue him. No one will pity or mourn his silent fall, because through his silence, he implicitly agreed to his own pain. Machiavelli once warned, "A fortress doesn't fall because of enemy strength, but because someone has opened the gates from within." Similarly, a man's defeat begins the moment he compromises with something he knows is wrong, when he prioritizes affection over honor and mistakes passive tolerance for a noble virtue. To others, especially the woman exploiting this patience, it doesn't look like generosity. It looks like weakness. Once respect is lost, love can't exist as an equal partnership. Instead, it becomes a relationship of dependency between someone dominant and someone submissive. If you find yourself continuously enduring mistreatment, you've lost your standing as a real man. You become merely a tool she can manipulate and control. This collapse isn't caused solely by the woman beside you, but primarily by your own acceptance and resignation. Ultimately, the price you pay is your honor, your dignity, and your identity as a free individual. As a mature, confident, and modern man, it's crucial to clearly recognize certain toxic behaviors coming from the woman beside you. Here are behaviors from your partner that a man should never tolerate if he truly wants to maintain his dignity and self-respect in life. 7 behaviors a man should never tolerate. 1. Mockery disguised as humor when she intentionally makes you the butt of a joke in front of others, claiming it's just for fun. Remember, that's not humor. It's subtle disrespect. A confident man never allows his dignity and honor to become entertainment for someone else. As Machiavelli reminded us, respect is never a joke. The more you tolerate this, the more your value diminishes. 2. Emotional chaos masquerading as personality. Each time she becomes irrationally angry, then quickly acts like nothing happened, you're being pulled into a power game. Unpredictable emotions aren't personality traits. They're tools for control. When you constantly concede to keep the peace, you unknowingly hand over control of your mood and surroundings. 3. Using intimacy as bargaining power. When intimacy turns into a means of negotiation and control, genuine love no longer exists. In this scenario, affection is no longer heartfelt, but exploitative. Machiavelli would argue that anything turned into a transaction loses its true meaning. 4. Disrespecting your dreams and ambitions. If she mocks your plans, trivializes your goals, or deliberately distracts you from your chosen path, she's not a partner, she's an obstacle. Machiavelli emphasized that a man's strength comes from his unwavering ideals, never to be shaken by disrespect or disdain from anyone. 5. Competition instead of support. If the woman next to you is always trying to outshine you, grab more attention, and constantly prove she's superior in every situation, she's not your partner. She's your competitor. In relationships, there can only be cooperation or competition. You can't have both, Machiavelli once clearly stated. Power cannot be shared with someone who is always looking for an opportunity to overthrow you. A relationship like this becomes a meaningless battle, not a cooperative partnership. 6. Demanding like a queen, giving like a slave. She wants to be treated like royalty, constantly demanding attention and care, yet acts stingy and reluctant when it comes to returning love and affection. If you always meet her demands unconditionally without receiving balance in return, you're undervaluing yourself. Machiavelli understood clearly. Imbalance in giving and receiving is the quickest path to the collapse of both respect and self-worth. 7. Destroying respect through indifference. It's not loud arguments or open conflicts, but sustained indifference and emotional coldness that erode respect most deeply. Cold silence, a careless attitude, and prolonged apathy quietly poison a relationship more powerfully than any open fight. Machiavelli warned against this silent decay because it destroys dignity and self-worth faster than any visible conflict. The illusion of strength. You believe your ability to endure and tolerate pain is a sign of strength. You pride yourself on forgiving others, accepting harm, and continuing to move forward even when your self-respect has been trampled. But here's the harsh truth. This doesn't show strength. It reveals a hidden desperation disguised beneath a veneer of noble morality. You're not protecting love or preserving your high-minded forgiveness. You're chaining yourself down, confusing endurance with genuine resilience. You convince yourself it's admirable, but in reality, you're just terrified of facing the loneliness that might come if you let go of what's quietly destroying you. If Machiavelli stood before you today, he wouldn't comfort or flatter you. He would confront you bluntly with the truth. You're not strong. You're simply too afraid of being alone to walk away from something that's slowly eating away at your soul. A genuinely strong man isn't someone who suffers in silence. Real strength comes from acknowledging the truth, standing up after being hurt, and walking away without looking back. Not because he is cold-hearted or indifferent, but because he knows his worth and dignity are non-negotiable. Society tells men they must sacrifice, endure pain silently, and forgive endlessly. But no one warns you that each time you tolerate disrespect or insults, you're setting yourself up to be treated poorly again in the future. Your silence doesn't make her value you more. It just gradually diminishes her respect for you. Ultimately, true strength doesn't lie in silently enduring pain. It lies in your courage to reject living with hurt, recognize your limits, and never sacrifice your dignity for something masquerading as love. The inner decay from tolerating toxic emotions. You might believe that loving someone means understanding being endlessly patient and tolerating irrational anger, unpredictable behaviors, and days when you reassure yourself, she's just tired. But wake up and look closely. This isn't love. You're managing a ticking time bomb at the heart of your relationship. Each day feels like navigating a secret mission, carefully analyzing every word and gesture to avoid setting her off. You've stopped living as a strong man with dignity, becoming instead a servant in a relationship meant to be an equal partnership. Bit by bit, your soul is being eroded, drained by something you mistake for love, but is actually prolonged emotional instability. Machiavelli would never forgive someone who lets another's emotional volatility control their destiny. He once asserted that a wise leader never allows emotional storms from the outside to breach his inner fortress, yet you willingly open the gates, inviting chaos in and confusing it with intimacy or deep affection. The more you attempt to decode and accommodate her unpredictable anger and moods, the further you drift from your true self. One day, you'll wake up realizing every time you overlooked emotionally destructive behavior, you gradually transformed into a hollow shadow beside someone who doesn't even offer basic respect. True love never asks you to sacrifice your sanity or endure emotional turmoil as some mandatory mission. Every time you ignore today's minor toxic signs, they turn into tomorrow's chronic illness that slowly consumes your soul. Inner decay always starts invisibly silently, but its destructive force is immense. By the time you notice it, things may have already gone too far beyond saving. Rebuilding yourself after awakening. No more tears. No more desire for revenge or meaningless arguments. Just a profound silence, determined, decisive, and quietly powerful. That's the moment you truly awaken. You realize you don't need to shout that you deserve respect, because true respect can't be begged or negotiated. Instead, you quietly step away from the chess game you've wasted too much time and energy trying to win. This silent withdrawal is exactly how you reclaim the power that had silently been taken from you long ago. Machiavelli once taught, "The silence of the wise is always more dangerous than all the shouts of the weak." A man who has awakened no longer strives for recognition or seeks empathy from the woman beside him. He observes carefully, makes clear decisions, and acts without needing any announcement. He immediately stops apologizing for unreasonable reasons, like making her upset. He no longer twists himself to avoid irrational anger. He leaves behind exhausting emotional games, replacing them with a new, clear value system: discipline, calmness, and decisiveness. There's no need for noisy rebellion or drama. Just a simple truth, he declares to himself. I clearly understand the issue. From that moment on, he's no longer someone else's pawn. He becomes the one who sets up the chessboard of his life, establishing his own rules. Rebuilding yourself never begins by changing the woman you're with. It starts within yourself. You shift from waiting to be chosen to actively making choices, from being controlled by emotions to mastering your life's principles, from begging for love to refusing anyone who loves you wrongly. Self-reconstruction happens quietly without fanfare, but once it begins, it's unstoppable and irreversible. Becoming an unshakable man He used to be vulnerable, trading his self-respect and dignity just to hold on to something he called love. He once feared loneliness, desperately clung on, trembling at the thought of losing the woman beside him. But that man no longer exists. The man who emerges from the darkness of awakening is not the weak guy he once was. He no longer craves love or seeks validation from others. Instead, he becomes an unstoppable force, unshakable and uncontrollable by anyone. Machiavelli would call him a ruler, someone who clearly knows what to keep and what to ruthlessly discard. He's no longer swayed by sweet words or weakened by rejection. He doesn't lose sleep over anyone's changing moods or unpredictable emotions. Instead, he stands firm like a rock against a raging flood, a fortress amidst chaos. He doesn't live to please anyone. He lives to fulfill the mission he's chosen for himself. His silence isn't weakness or avoidance. It's a sign of freedom detached from meaningless noise. His cold demeanor isn't indifference. It's armor forged through painful experiences. He's walked through hell and returned stronger, untouched by wounds that once brought him to his knees. The unshakable man no longer needs to prove himself. He's done begging for love or validation. Now he decides who's worthy enough to walk beside him. Women sense this strength immediately. They're drawn to it, but can't control him. They test him, but they'll never break him, because he's no longer waiting to be chosen. He has become the one choice that's undeniable and irreplaceable. The kingdom rebuilt. When a man rises from the ashes of past hurt, he doesn't return as his old self. He emerges with a completely new kingdom, built firmly upon principles rather than emotional instability. This time, he no longer makes excuses for anyone or compromises due to fear of loneliness. Instead, he establishes clear boundaries, and anyone who crosses them is swiftly removed without hesitation. In this new kingdom, chaos isn't welcomed, even if it tries to disguise itself as personality. Those who come only to take, never to give or build, have no place here. And no one, not even someone beautiful, alluring, or previously considered indispensable, can persuade him to abandon his core principles. Machiavelli called this the art of inner rule, an art that transforms a man's mind and heart into his most valuable territory, worth fiercely protecting. This man doesn't have to shout to be heard, nor control others to prove his strength. He's become truly unmanipulable because he no longer fears losing anything. This creates an irresistible attraction. He no longer chases or depends on women, and precisely because of this, he becomes the one man they cannot control or manipulate. Women now face a choice: respect him or walk away. The kingdom he rebuilds is free of any cracks. This time there's only one throne, and he sits upon it like a true king. Marcus Aurelius once warned Machiavelli mastered the game, but it's this awakened man who rewrites the rules of his own life.